credible and commonly used reasons to contact a client, and just walk through what you do and don't do in the conversation. So the first one is a follow-up. So love it or hate it, and I think it's absolutely low value, at the end of the day, a follow-up call is always going to be one of the most popular calls. And so for me, it's about making that follow-up call more high value than it currently is. So we call our client, we say, hello, how are you? How was your weekend? Do all of that sort of rapport building stuff. And whether the client's up for conversation or not, then you get into the crux of it. Say, how is the proposal going? How are you going with the sign off the new client that will basically affect your deal? How are you going with this? How are you going with that? And at that point, what actually occurs is the client will just want to just tell you what's going on, if anything at all, and then get you off the phone. And I would suggest 3 out of 5 individuals will come off of the phone immediately, maybe even 4. What I'm suggesting you do on those follow-up calls is have at least 3 objectives going into that call other than the follow-up of the proposal. These objectives can be as small as asking for some information on a lateral department, or it can be as large as talking through how their strategy is going for the year, knowing full well that they're in strategy planning. What I'm suggesting here with the 3 objectives as an addition to the actual follow-up call itself is that you look, before you ring that client, you look and see what the previous calls have been. If you have followed up already on that proposal or whatever it is that you're following up on, the meeting, the call, the anything, if you've done that already once, then I would suggest that you don't lead with that. You now have 3 other objectives that I would suggest aren't necessarily all, high value reasons to call. They're probably all low value reasons, really. But collectively, there is now 4 low value reasons to call the client. And I would suggest you mix up the order of how you discuss that with the client. So to phone a client and say, hello, I'm still following up on something, 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 you're going to get a few different feelings and probably 1 of 3 responses. You're going to get apologies and I'm so sorry, I'm embarrassed, which means you've shamed them. The second one you're going to get is nonchalance and just kick the can down the road. And the final one you're going to get is frustration and anger. None of those 3 are going to yield. Yet if you phone up and say, hello, hope you're well. I wanted to discuss with you something in a lateral department, or one of your competitors has done this. Have you got any comments on it, or how do you feel that your business will respond to it, or something else that's a little bit more interesting than a follow-up? And you start getting into a dialogue and things. And then right at the end of the call, you turn around and say, just one last question. Just in terms of my proposal, when will you be able to come back to me on that? I need to really get a deadline because I need to circulate it around the business. That very quickly becomes a very different call than, hello, I'm just following up on the proposal. Oh, and then by the way, you want to talk about whatever else. It's just really important to lead with something that perhaps they're not predicting, to get them to stop what they're doing and to take your call and to think and to collaborate with you. The second reason to call a client that I want to talk about in a bit more detail is for you to ask for their help. So I know some of you with really, prideful personalities may feel that this may not lend itself to your personality, but have you ever said no to someone when they've said, can you help me with something? Of course, your 13-year-old child when you're in the middle of something. But really, when a colleague comes over to you, whether you have time or not, and they say, I really need to ask for your help, it's an innate human instinct to say yes. Of course, there's parameters, and a lot of people will say, of course, if I can help you. When you phone a client and you ask for their help, whether you say help or assistance or another word that's quite similar, what you're doing is you're making them stop and be present with you very quickly, because they want to serve you. A lot of people do want to serve. Would you phone a chief executive at 10 a.m. on a Monday morning, 2 hours before a monthly board meeting, and ask for their help? Perhaps not. But would you send them a note and say, I'd like to talk to you when you have a moment. I need to ask for your assistance. I'd love to ask for your advice. Absolutely, you would. So asking for someone's help is a really powerful way to open the conversation. And then, of course, the backup to that is exactly what you're going to ask them. And it doesn't have to be something that is war and peace. It could literally be, I'd love, I'm struggling because I can't seem to get this proposal through the powers that be. I'm really concerned it's gone into a black hole. I'd love to ask you to step in, or have you got any advice for me? It could be as small as that. It could be as large as, can you help me introduce me to other businesses? My business is losing money and I really need your help.